Imagine being forced to marry a man who can't even say "I do" because he's not even awake. Sounds like a nightmare, right? Well, this nightmare was my reality. My name is Emma. Just Emma. That was before everything changed, before my life slipped through my fingers like sand. You see, my dad's company was drowning. Not the kind of trouble you can just fix with a quick loan or some clever deals. No, this was a full-on disaster, and if the company went under, so did everything we had. One evening, after a dinner that felt more like a trial than a family gathering, my mother sat me down in the coldest tone I've ever heard. "Emma, you have a duty to our family," she said, eyes sharp and unforgiving. "Nathan Sterling Foster is the key. He's the heir to one of the biggest fortunes in the country. Marrying him will save your father's company." My stomach twisted. I wanted to ask how they expected me to marry a man who had been in a coma for 3 months, someone who couldn't even tell me his name, let alone say "I do." But my throat tightened, and the words died before they reached my lips. The house felt suffocating. Every corner whispered lies and promises I didn't want to hear. Later, I found myself alone in my room, phone in hand, trembling as I typed the one message I hoped would be my lifeline. "Ryan, please. I can't do this. Help me get out. I need you." Minutes ticked by like hours. My heart pounded with each silent second. No reply. No sign. Nothing. I stared at the blank screen, feeling the weight of silence crashing down on me. Maybe he was scared. Maybe he didn't care. Maybe I was already alone. The next morning, the house was buzzing with preparations. Invitations sent. Dresses picked. Flowers ordered. My sister Lily walked past me, eyes avoiding mine, a smirk tugging at the corner of her mouth. Something about her made my skin crawl, but I pushed it aside. After all, she was my sister. At the dinner table, the atmosphere was thick with tension. My father, exhausted and worn, gave a tired nod whenever the marriage was mentioned. My mother's gaze was sharp, like a hawk watching its prey. Lily's voice cut through the silence. "Emma, stop dragging your feet. This is for all of us." I swallowed my anger. How's this fair? Nathan's, he's not even here. How can I marry someone who can't say yes? No one answered. No one had to. I realized then that I was a pawn. A piece to be moved, sacrificed on the board of power and money. As the days slipped closer to the wedding, my hope faded, replaced by a cold numbness. I wasn't just losing my freedom, I was losing myself. And yet, I had to play the part. Because in this twisted game, survival meant obeying the rules, no matter how cruel. I remember staring at my phone that night, fingers trembling over the screen. Every time I looked up, I felt the walls closing in tighter, like the whole world was holding its breath, waiting for me to just give in. I had sent Ryan the message, pouring out my fear, my desperation, my only chance at escape. "Please, come get me. Help me run." But the silence that followed was deafening. Minutes passed, then hours. No reply. I told myself maybe his phone was dead. Maybe he was stuck somewhere. But the doubt was creeping in, like a shadow stretching over my heart. That evening, I tried calling him again. After the third ring, his voicemail picked up. "Hey, it's Ryan. Can't get to the phone right now. Leave a message." I hesitated, voice barely above a whisper. "Ryan, it's me. Please, I need you. I'm scared. Please call me back." The beep sounded. I swallowed hard and put the phone down, my chest tightening with every heartbeat. The next morning, I confronted my sister Lily in the kitchen, desperate for any news. "Lily, have you heard from Ryan?" "He's not answering me," I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She looked up, surprised, and then smirked, a flash of something I didn't recognize in her eyes. "No, I haven't." "Maybe he's busy," she said, too casually. "Busy?" "Ryan would never just ignore me like this," I snapped. She shrugged. "People change, Emma. Maybe you should too." Her words hit me like a punch. But I swallowed my anger. I couldn't afford a fight right now. Later, I texted Ryan again. "Please, Ryan. I don't know what's happening. I need you." No response. The loneliness settled deep inside me, twisting and tightening like a noose. That night, I sat curled up on my bed, tears slipping down without shame. Not just because of the forced marriage, but because the one person I thought had my back, my boyfriend, was nowhere to be found. I began questioning everything. Had Ryan really been there for me? Or was he just another part of this nightmare? By morning, the cold truth was settling in. I wasn't just trapped by my family or the weight of their demands. I was alone. And that realization hurt more than any forced vow could. The moment I heard them, something inside me cracked, like a fragile glass shattering into pieces. It was late, and I was supposed to be asleep, but my mind refused to rest. Restless, I wandered the silent hallway, trying to clear the storm inside my head. That's when I stopped outside the study. The door was cracked open just a bit, enough for me to catch their voices. Lily's laugh came first, light and cruel. "You really think Emma has no idea," she whispered, amusement dripping from her tone. Ryan's voice followed, smug and cold. "She sends me messages begging for help, and I just ignore her. She's completely trapped." I froze. My heart pounded so loudly I thought they might hear it. Lily smiled in her voice. "And marrying that coma patient? It's the perfect joke. She's fooling no one but herself." Ryan laughed softly. "Exactly. She's just a pawn in our game. And soon, it'll all be ours." I wanted to slam the door open, to scream and cry and demand why. But I stayed silent, unable to move. When Lily said, "We've got everything planned out. Dad's company, the inheritance, it's all slipping through Emma's fingers." Ryan replied, "And once Nathan's gone, it's game over for her." My world tilted. Their words weren't just cruel, they were final. I whispered to myself, how could they? The door creaked and their voices faded as they left the room. Alone, I leaned against the cold wall, tears blurring my vision. Later that night, I confronted Lily in the kitchen. "Why?" I asked, voice breaking. "How could you?" She shrugged, eyes hard. "It's just business, Emma. Nothing personal." I wanted to hate her, to scream at her face. But all I could do was turn away. That night, the house felt colder, emptier than ever. I realized trust was gone, but so was my innocence. And from that moment, I knew I had to be smarter, stronger. Because if they wanted a game, I was going to change the rules. The sun hadn't even risen when my alarm went off. But I wasn't really sleeping anyway. How could I? The wedding day I never wanted had arrived, and with it, a tidal wave of dread I couldn't shake. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, mind racing. Nathan was still trapped in that coma, unreachable. A man who couldn't even say yes, let alone I do. And yet today, I was supposed to marry him. My phone buzzed quietly. I glanced at the screen. A message from Lily. "Remember your place, Emma. No slip-ups today. For the family." My stomach twisted. That cold, sharp reminder that I was nothing more than a pawn. I didn't respond. I got up slowly, the weight of the day pressing on every bone. In front of the mirror, the reflection that stared back was unfamiliar, a pale woman in a white dress, eyes hollow but determined. My mother stepped into the room, flawless and cold. "Emma," she said, voice clipped, "this is your duty. Don't embarrass us." I swallowed the lump in my throat, nodding silently. The ride to the venue was a blur. I barely registered the passing scenery, lost in a swirl of memories and doubts. At the grand hall, the preparations were immaculate. Candles flickered softly, flowers perfumed the air, and guests chatted in low tones, many of them pitying me, others indifferent. I felt the weight of their stares as I stood backstage, waiting for my cue. My heart pounded loudly, every beat screaming that this was wrong. Then my mother's voice cut through the noise. "Remember, Emma, keep your chin up. You're a Sterling Foster now." I forced a bitter smile. When the music started, I stepped out. The crowd rose, eyes fixed on me. Some smiled, others whispered. None of it felt real. Nathan's empty chair stood by the altar, adorned with a small white pillow. The groom who wasn't there. As I walked down the aisle, every step felt like walking on broken glass. At the altar, the officiant's words felt distant, mechanical. I barely heard them over the ringing in my ears. When it came time for the rings, silence. No one moved to hand me one. Without thinking, I reached into the velvet box, took the ring, and slid it onto my finger myself. A hush fell over the room. I lifted my chin, voice steady and loud enough for all to hear. This vow is mine alone. Gasps and whispers rippled through the crowd. I continued, heart blazing. I vow to never be broken, to never be silenced, to never be a prisoner to anyone's plans again. My mother's face twisted in anger. Lily's smirk deepened. After the ceremony, people scattered quickly, avoiding my eyes. My father caught me as I turned to leave. This isn't what we agreed on, Emma. I looked up at him, cold and unyielding. Plans change. Alone in my room later, I traced the ring on my finger. A symbol of captivity? Or a reminder of my promise? I whispered to the silent walls, from now on, I fight for me. The day had been a farce, but my vow was real. This was not the end. It was my beginning. They said I was nothing more than a pawn. A girl forced into a marriage with a man who couldn't even open his eyes. A name, Emma Sterling Foster, forced upon me like a brand, a burden, a chain. But that name, it was more than just a label. It held power, waiting to be claimed. I sat alone in my room late into the night, the cold metal of the ring heavy on my finger. My reflection in the mirror looked back at me, a woman changed. Not the frightened girl who had begged Ryan for help, but someone sharper, harder, and filled with fire. The silence was broken when the door creaked open. My mother stepped inside, her face as cold and flawless as ever. Emma, she said quietly, remember your place. You carry this family's future now. Don't forget that. I met her gaze, steady and unflinching. I know exactly what I carry, and I'm not the girl you think I am. Her lips pressed into a thin line, but she said nothing more and left. No sooner had the door shut behind her than Lily appeared, leaning casually against the doorway, a mocking smile playing on her lips. So, the little bride thinks she's found a sword, she said, voice dripping with sarcasm. Do you really think that ring changes anything? I didn't look away. It's not the ring, Lily. It's what I'm going to do with it. She laughed, a cold, harsh sound. Good luck, Emma. You'll need it. When she left, the room felt emptier than ever, but my resolve was stronger. The next morning, I sat across from my father at the breakfast table. The air between us was thick, heavy with unspoken words. He finally broke the silence. Emma, this family has plans for you. The company, the legacy, you have a role to play. I leaned forward, voice calm but firm. My role isn't to be a puppet. It's to rewrite the rules. He studied me for a long moment, and for the first time, I saw something like respect flicker in his eyes. Later that day, I started making calls lawyers, advisors, anyone who could help me understand what I'd stepped into. I wasn't going to be the powerless girl anymore. I would learn, I would fight, and I would take back what was mine. That night, as I lay in bed, I whispered to the darkness. This name, Sterling Foster, isn't a chain. It's my sword, and I'm ready to wield it. Because the wedding was just the beginning. My story was only starting. If you liked part 1 and want to follow Emma's journey, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you won't miss what happens next.